So good morning, everyone. Welcome to BOSEStat at 100, a celebration of centenary of Bose-Einstein statistics. On behalf of all members of Bose National Center for Basic Sciences, we extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and our valued participants. Professor Satyendra Nath Bose was one of the founding fathers of quantum mechanics. His pioneering work on quantum statistics has paved the way for development of modern quantum technologies, including Bose-Einstein condensation, superconductivity, and quantum information theory. In 1924, Professor S.N. Bose authored the seminal paper on Bose-Einstein statistics. This year, in 2024, we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of that paper. On this occasion, S.N. Bose National Center for Basic Sciences, the institute that was established to honor the life and work of Professor S.N. Bose, is celebrating the centenary of Bose's seminal work by organizing 3 international conferences and several outreach programs throughout the year. Today, we are starting the second of those conferences on women in quantum science and technologies, a gathering dedicated to women in quantum science and will comprise talks from women scientists in the broad areas of quantum science and technologies. It is important to celebrate the contribution of women in quantum science. Even though women in science have earned a firm ground under their feet today, their path has not been easy. This 3-day conference will bring under focus the challenges and achievements of women scientists and their path-breaking work in modern-day quantum science. As we embark on this exciting journey over the next 3 days, we are thrilled to see many participants converging here. I would now like to introduce our esteemed guests. We are honored to have Professor Abhay Karandikar as the chief guest for this event. Professor Karandikar currently serves as the Secretary to the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, and is renowned for his significant contributions to India's telecommunications sector. He was one of the founding members of the Telecom Standards Development Society of India and served as its first vice chairman. Professor Karandikar has played a pivotal role in conceptualizing and establishing new technical standards work programs for the Telecommunications Standards Development Society India. Professor Karandikar has also been dedicated to fostering innovation in technology for rural broadband through his research program, Gram Marg. His efforts in this area were recognized when he received the IEEE Essays Standards Medallion in 2016. For his contributions to Indian technology policy and standardization with IEEE guidelines. Moreover, his Gram Marg solution for rural broadband was the recipient of Mozilla Open Innovation Challenge in 2017. Today, we are privileged to have Professor Karandikar join us online. We extend a warm welcome to Professor Karandikar. Next, it's my honor to introduce Srimati A. Dhanalakshmi, a distinguished CSS officer of the 1995 batch, currently serving as the Joint Secretary in the Department of Science and Technology, New Delhi, since January 2023. Her journey in public service is marked by significant roles and achievements. Prior to her current assignment, she served as the Joint Secretary in the National Commission for Minorities and held position of Director at the Ministry of Minority Affairs, Government of India. Srimati Dhanalakshmi's career is a testament to her diverse expertise and commitment to public service, including substantial contributions to rural development as Registrar and Director Administration at the National Institute of Rural Development in Hyderabad. She has played an important role in looking for ways to reach the benefits of science to the remotest corners of the country and to the underprivileged population. I request Srimati Dhanalakshmi to kindly join us on this stage. Next, it is our privilege to introduce Professor Rohini Godbole. With over 3 decades of dedicated work in particle phenomenology, Professor Godbole has made significant contributions to the field. She holds fellowships in all 3 science academies of India and the Science Academy of the Developing World. In recognition of her outstanding achievements in science and technology, she was honored with Padma Shri in 2019. Beyond academia, Professor Godbole is a staunch advocate for women in science and technology. She co-edited the inspiring book Leelavati's Daughter with Ram Ramaswamy, featuring biographical essays of eminent women scientists from India. We are honored to have Professor Godbole with us. She is joining us online. Now we would like to introduce Professor Umesh Wagmare, President of the Indian Academy of Sciences, Bangalore, and a professor at the Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research. His research focuses on computer simulations of electronic motion governed by quantum physics and electron-mediated interatomic interactions that are responsible for the multi-scale behavior of materials. Professor Wagmare has received numerous accolades for his contributions to material physics, including the prestigious Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize and Infosys Prize, among others. We are privileged to have Professor Wagmare with us today. I would like to request Professor Wagmare to kindly join us on the stage. We would like to introduce Professor Madhu Dikshit from CSIR Central Drug Research Institute. She is the Vice President of INSA, Indian National Science Academy, and Vice President of NASI, National Academy of Sciences, India. She is renowned for her research in cardiovascular pathologies and is a fellow of all three academies of science in India. The Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, honored her with National Bioscience Award for Career Development, one of the highest accolades in Indian science, in recognition of her significant contributions to biosciences. Due to an urgent meeting, Professor Dikshit is unable to join us today. She has, however, sent a message which I will read out at the time of the inaugural address. We are pleased to introduce Professor Indranil Manna, the Vice Chancellor of BIT Mishra and the Vice President of Indian National Science Academy. Professor Manna has been a renowned and prolific researcher with wide-ranging research interests concerning microstructure property correlation in nanometric and amorphous solids. His significant contributions in the study of amorphous nanocrystalline aluminum alloys, nanofluids, and laser plasma-assisted surface engineering has garnered significant recognition within the scientific community. Professor Manna has been honored with several prestigious awards, including the World Academy of Science Prize in Engineering Sciences 2013 and MRSI Distinguished Lecture Prize in 2017. We are privileged to have Professor Manna with us today. We request Professor Manna to kindly join us on the stage. Finally, I would like to request Professor Tanushri Sahadas Gupta, Director of SN Bose National Center for Basic Sciences, to kindly join us on stage. I would now like to request Ms. Ananya Chakravarti and Mr. Shubhajit Mandal to kindly felicitate Srimati A. Thanalakshmi, Joint Secretary, DST. I now request Mr. Nazrul Islam and Mr. Ashish Bera to kindly felicitate Professor Umesh Wagmare.
We look good with it.
I request Mr. Shubhajit Mandal and Ms. Ananya Chakravarti to kindly felicitate Professor Indranil Manna. I request Mr. Ashish Bera and Mr. Nazrul Islam to felicitate Professor Tanushree Shahadas Gupta. I now request all the guests on the stage to collectively light the lamp to inaugurate this conference.
Please. This is Madam, first,
Thank you all the guests for inaugurating the conference. I would now like to request Professor Tanushree Shahadas Gupta, Director of SNBOS National Center for Basic Sciences, to kindly give her welcome address.
A very good morning, Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, all dignitaries present on the dais, Ms. Dhanalakshmi, Joint Secretary, DST, Professor Umesh Wagmare, President, Indian Academy of Science, Bangalore, Professor Indranil Manna, Vice President, Indian National Academy of Sciences, Delhi, Professor Rohini Godbole, who has been source of inspiration, I guess, for many of the women assembled today. And she is also the Vice President of Indian Academy, Bangalore, joined online. All the members of the governing body who have joined online, the RPAC members, eminent speakers, panelists, former directors of SNBOS Center present in the audience, either online or offline, all students and participants. Welcome to the inaugural event of this unique conference on women in quantum science and technology. As has been already mentioned, this year is being celebrated as the centenary of Bose statistics, the path-breaking paper of Professor Satyendranath Bose on this very topic being written in the year 1924. While celebrating this great event, we noticed that SN Bose was quite sensitive to the gender issue, or we might put it in the way that gender didn't matter to him at all as far as science is concerned. We need to remember it was an era when the concept of even or terms like gender diversity, inclusivity, that was unknown to the society. An infamous example was that of Kamala Bhagat, who was denied entry to IISc Bangalore as a research scholar by none other than C.V. Raman, who was then the institute director because of her gender. In marked contrast, Dr. Purnima Sinha, the first female PhD in physics in India, did her research under Professor Satyan Bose's guidance. We are extremely fortunate to have Professor Shukarna Sinha, daughter of Dr. Purnima Sinha, with us today. And I'm looking forward to hear more of the reminiscence from that time. As was mentioned by Professor Arup Rai Chaudhary in his personal note, unfortunately because of his ill health, he could not be present today. Professor Oshima Chatterjee started her initial research on medicinal plant extracts with Professor Bose and conducted the first small molecule XRD, which was a pioneering work at that time. So clearly, Professor Bose was quite ahead of his time. And as I mentioned, gender did not matter to me. So keeping these very aspects in mind, and keeping in mind the recent worldwide excitement about the second quantum revolution that the world is kind of going through, we thought it's pertinent to organize this conference as a part of our year-long celebration of this BOSEStat. It's also worthwhile to mention here, now a forum has been created both in Europe and in Japan called Women for Quantum, to deal with the issues of women in quantum science. So it's just a coincidence. I was not aware of this forum. So I feel a similar thing should be created also in India. We have 3 exciting days ahead of us. I once again welcome all of you to actively participate and make this event successful. Finally, I would like to thank all of you to assemble here today, in spite of the fact today is a national holiday. The conference schedule was planned and announced a year ago. That time we was unaware of it, so we decided to keep the way we have announced. But we need to remember this period offers us an opportunity to carry out good deeds, and I believe that this conference organized does fulfill that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sahadas Gupta, for your inspiring address. I would now like to request Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, to give his inaugural address.
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, a very warm welcome to all the participants who have gathered there to celebrate the centenary of Professor S.N. Bose' monumental contributions to quantum mechanics. And I would like to congratulate Professor Tanushri Dasgupta, the director of S.N. Bose National Center for Basic Sciences, and her team to commemorate this centenary with year-long celebration of several conferences that have been organized with BOSEStat at 100th series. In this centenary year, therefore, it is fitting that we celebrate not only the achievements of Professor S.N. Bose, but also the contributions of women in quantum science. Despite the significant progress, and I think Professor Rohini Godbole will elaborate more on this, the journey for women in science has been fraught with several challenges. And while today we recognize their achievements and honor their resilience in this field, at this point of time, I should also say that in the government and in the Department of Science and Technology, we have taken several initiatives which have increased the participation of women in science and technology field over the last several years. I believe that this is the second international conference in the BOSEStat 100 series. And I'm delighted to see that this conference will be organized over a period of 3 days. And it will not only discuss the scientific contributions, but we'll also discuss the challenges and achievements of the women scientists, particularly the women scientists who are working in India. It is also quite coincidence that while we celebrate the centenary of Professor S.N. Bose, the Department of Science and Technology has launched the National Quantum Mission. And in this year only, we had issued the call for proposals for setting up the mission hubs and the technical groups. And we received an overwhelming response from the scientific community in the form of close to 384 proposals, which are now undergoing reviews, and thanks to the DST team, which has worked in the mission mode. We will be announcing the formation of the technical groups next month, in the month of August. And hopefully we'll be releasing the funds by September, October timeframe, so that we can initiate the activities of quantum mission and technologies in this year, in this centenary year itself. I would like to once again congratulate the team of Professor S.N. Bose. And I would also like to extend my warm welcome to Professor Umesh Wagmare and Professor Indranil Manna and Mrs. Dhanlakshmi, who are physically present here, and Professor Rohini Godbole, and all other participants who have gathered today. Unfortunately, I couldn't come to Kolkata today, and even today I need to leave by 10 o'clock, but I wish the conference a great success. And I hope that this deliberations will also lead to some suggestions, which in the department we will be able to take into account, not only while implementing the national quantum missions, but in general, the science, technology, and innovation policy. So once again, thank you very much.
We would like to thank you, Professor Karendikar, for your inaugural address. I now request Ms. A. Dhanalakshmi, Joint Secretary, DST, to kindly give her inaugural address.
Good morning, everybody. Respected Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be among you today and seeing a group of bright scientists assembled here to commemorate S.N. Bose's contribution and particularly appreciate women in quantum science and the other scientific achievements of women. Basically, in India, I call it the concept of feminization of poverty. In a middle class family where the income level is reasonably good but not very high, if you have a son and a daughter in a family, the son's education takes the major portion of the savings and expenditure of the family, and the daughter's education is given a second priority, not because the family doesn't love the daughter. It's because the family loves the daughter more than their son, because they are worried about the daughter's future. They have to arrange a decent reason for her marriage, and they have to ensure that she is well settled in life, much ahead of their son. So they prioritize their family income in such a way that the son gets the best of the education and the daughter gets the best of her family to live for the rest of their life. In spite of such social and economic and cultural background, it's good that I'm able to see so many women scientists over here who have already broken the shackles of all that societal stereotyping and who has come out through the breaking the glass ceiling and are now have been able to become great scientists doing their PGs, PhDs, and postdoctoral studies in science, in particularly STEM field and quantum mechanism. So all these scientists over here deserve a great round of applause. Can I have a great round of applause dedicated to all these women scientists who have, breaking the stereotype, work hard through their life to reach this stage. It's not very easy for them when compared to others. In spite of that, they have done it and they deserve it. Now, we stand on the cusp of a new era one defined by the profound impact of quantum mechanics on our world. As we explore this exciting frontline, it is essential to recognize and support the women who are pioneering advancement in this field. Quantum science, with its principles of superposition and entanglement, challenges our conventional understanding of the universe. Similarly, the journey of women in quantum science challenges the traditional narratives of gender roles in STEM. Today, we celebrate those who are breaking barriers and defining what is possible. One of the trailblazers in this field, Dr. Purnima Sinha, was guided by the great personality, Dr. S.N. Bose. In those days, in 1950s, when the society was not as developed as today's society, she became a scholar and she got a PhD by a research on clay, refractive index of clay. And I have gone through a book which was published by Vigyan Prasad called Vigyan Vidushi, commemorating the 75th year of India's independence, when 75 women scientists across the country were compiled into one book. Their achievements are compiled into one book. Dr. Purnima Sinha is not only a renowned scientist, she was a great artist also. She had degrees in music. She was a great sculptor and a painter and she was in those days when tabla was dominated by women. She was a women tabla player who was very much ahead of her time. And she got married to a professor in anthropology, and she had to leave India after obtaining her PhD. She had to leave India and settle in University of San Francisco. She had to go to California with her husband. After going there, she learned that human DNA structure had some remote resemblance with the clay structures, internal thing. And she started researching more on those subjects after going there. And she, after coming back from all her venture abroad, she settled as a professor in fine arts in some university. So that kind of multifaceted approach for a women scientist is what has led her to become the greatest personality of her time. And that's why she deserves a proud mention here in this conference of women in quantum technology. However, the path to gender parity in quantum science is still fraught with challenges. Women are underrepresented in STEM field, and quantum science is no exemption. According to the recent study, women make only 20% of the workforce in quantum technology. This disparity highlights the need for concerned efforts to inspire, mentor, and support women at every stage of their career. Educational initiatives play a crucial role in this effort, encouraging young girls to pursue studies in physics, mathematics, lay the foundation for future quantum scientists. Programs like the Women in Quantum Initiative provide mentorship, networking, and opportunities and resource to help women. Okay, Women in Quantum Initiative provide mentorship, networking opportunities, and resources to help women thrive in this demanding field. By investing in these programs, we can create a more inclusive environment that nurtures talent and foster innovation. Another inspiring figure, Dr. Siemens, already contributed a lot in quantum physics. Her work in developing silicon-based quantum bits is paving the way for the new generation of quantum computers. Dr. Siemens' dedication and passion serves as a beacon for aspiring scientists, demonstrating that women can and do excel in quantum science. It is also essential to recognize the role of organizations and institutions in promoting gender equality. Companies and research institutions must adapt a policy that support work-life balance, provide equal opportunity for advancement, and actively combat biases Creating an inclusive culture not only benefits women, but also enhances the overall quality of research and innovation in India. As we look to the future, we must ask ourselves, how can we continue to empower women in quantum science and technology? The answer lies in collaboration. By working together, both academics, industries, and government, we can create pathways for women to enter, succeed, and lead in this field. This collaboration should also extend to global partnership, leveraging diverse perspectives and expertise to tackle the complex challenges of quantum science. In conclusion, the future of quantum science and technology is bright, and women are integral to its success. By celebrating their achievement and addressing the barriers they face and fostering an inclusive environment, we can ensure that the contribution of women continue to shape their exciting frontiers. Let us commit to support and empower the next generation of women in quantum science. It is through their brilliance and determination that we can unlock the full potential of the quantum technology. Thank you one and all for giving me an opportunity to be present among you, this bright and young scientists. And in fact, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you very much, Srimati Dhanalakshmi, for giving your inaugural address. I now request Professor Umesh Wagmare to kindly give his inaugural address.
Good morning, Professor Karandikar, Mrs. Dhanalakshmi, Professor Indrani Manna, Professor Tanushree Sharadas Gupta, Professor Navini Godbole, and all other guests assembled here. My warm greetings. First of all, it's an honor for me to be here at a conference which is in honor of Professor Satyendranath Bose, who was not only a great physicist who made monumental great contributions to quantum physics, but he also promoted education of women and research by women in particularly physics and other areas of sciences. Secondly, it's my responsibility to be here at this meeting because I'm a practicing quantum scientist, and it's really nice for me to support my fellow women scientists who have made remarkable contributions in quantum science and technology. And for example, I started collaborating with Tanushree maybe 20 years ago and have learned a great deal of things from her. So it's my pleasure and responsibility to join you here at this meeting. I'll start with my generic thoughts about the point about women in science. One is we often hear education of women and growth of women's career. I personally look at it as the education and growth of women are inseparable from the growth of the whole community. We should not actually segregate the two and look at it. It has to be looked at in a holistic way. Only if women progress in science, we as a whole community will progress, and that's an integral part of the ecosystem. Secondly, often an argument is, look, 50% of the population is constituted of women, and if we don't engage with them, we will lose out in a big way. Well, that's not enough, because I feel the kind of perspectives for an understanding of science women come with is definitely very special, and that adds a great value to how we think about science in general. So it goes more in a generic term of diversity, but I really have experienced it myself that it's important to understand science in a more different sort of diverse way by including women. Next is I feel we first have to accept that we have a problem. We have an implicit bias as far as gender is concerned. If we accept it, it's much easier to surmount it. For example, with more than a few hundred years of history, these problems have been around. The gender gap has been around in different forms. It is geographically dependent. It's dependent on the culture, society, and how families have evolved in different circumstances. And education, by example, is a key, I think, to address such gaps. And Satyendranath Bose was, I think, a really nice case who showed by example how to promote education and the involvement of women in science and research. So I was lucky myself to have a mother who was a physics teacher. And also I was the first PhD student to join Professor Karen Redd at Yale. And I benefited in a big way. And I think that this was very important as a background for me to appreciate and learn from women about very interesting ideas of science, which are which is a very strong and educational enjoying experience. So with that background, it's much easier for me to, I think, understand the problem, accept the biases that we have always had, and work against them. I here also represent the Indian Academy of Sciences, and I must first acknowledge that Professor Rohini Godbole, who is the Vice President of the Academy, is a pioneer in pushing the cause of women in science on behalf of the Indian Academy of Sciences. She has been involved right from the beginning in formulating the policies and programs and activities of the Academy in this domain by inspiring young women and girls in science, mentoring them. Her book, along with Rama Ramaswamy on Lilavati's daughter, is very famous and a must read for all scientists, I feel, particularly in India. And also they work on promoting career of women in science. They educate young women scientists about the career opportunities and also development of database along with other science academies in the country, so that all scientists can have access to knowledge about women in science in India. It's really nice to be here at the conference on women in quantum science and technology. In this context, I want to point out that London School of Economics did some survey and pointed out that only 2% of the job applications in quantum science and technology, particularly in industry, were coming from women. So there's a much more serious gap in women's representation, particularly in jobs in quantum science and technology, and only 80% of the companies, more than 80% of the companies engaged in quantum science and technology had no women in the senior position. Yeah, so these were two sort of facts which came out, and indeed we need to be sensitive about this gap and take it forward from education and research in our institutions. There was another very interesting thing I found out in this context. There is a startup company called She Quantum. It's an e-learning platform and was set up to basically inspire, educate, and create workforce of women focused in quantum science and technology. And the Quantum Insider, based in Canada, published a list of 52 quantum engineers engaged in working in industry. And among about 4 of the 52 women engineers they pointed out are from India. And I should be delighted to share with you that all 4 of them came from not premier institutions in India, but sort of second-tier institutions. So it's a very good sign, and I think a thing to find out that we also need to reach out in accessing our tremendous human resources all over India from various sections of the institutions. I now end by pointing out that Professor S.N. Bose was a great example of quantum scientist and also someone who promoted women in science. And the institute that's named after him, it's even more nice to see, is headed by a woman quantum scientist today, Professor Tanushree Dasgupta. There's another woman quantum scientist here, Professor Priya Mahadevan, who's now organizing a meeting in quantum 2D materials in ICTS Bangalore presently. So it's really nice that the legacy of Professor S.N. Bose is propagated through at least 2 strong women scientists, along with many other, of course, men scientists as well at the S.N. Bose National Center. I wish you all a very good conference in the coming days, and I'm really happy to join you all here today. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Wagmare, for your inaugural address. Since Professor Madhu Dixit couldn't join us today, I would like to read out the message sent out by her. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, distinguished guests, and emerging scientists, good morning and welcome to the inaugural session of the International Conference on Women in Quantum Science and Technologies. It is a profound honor to be invited by Dr. Tanushree Saha Dasgupta, the Director of S.N. Bose National Center for Basic Sciences, Kolkata. Due to a prior commitment, I am unable to join you today in person at this esteemed institution, renowned for its dedication for advancing scientific knowledge and fostering innovation. I feel privileged to be invited alongside the illustrious and accomplished women scientists, Professor Rohini Godbole, DST Secretary Professor Abhay Karandikar, Professor Umesh Wagmare, Professor Indranil Manna, and Joint Secretary Srimati Dhanalakshmi. We are here to celebrate the life and work of Professor S.N. Bose, and it is fitting that the centenary of Bose's monumental contributions is being celebrated by acknowledging the significant contributions of women scientists in quantum mechanics. It is appropriate to remember Dr. Purnima Sinha, a pioneering Indian physicist and the first Bengali woman to earn a doctorate in physics, who was mentored by Professor S.N. Bose. She completed her PhD under the mentorship of Professor Satyendra Nath Bose at the University of Calcutta in 1956. Her dissertation entitled X-ray and Differential Thermal Analysis of Indian Clay and Minerals still remains valuable in the field of X-ray crystallography of clay minerals. That Dr. Sinha innovatively constructed her X-ray equipment from World War II surplus materials to conduct her research remains a testament to her resourcefulness and ingenuity. Her other notable contribution was her work on the Origin of Life project, comparing the X-ray structure of clay with DNA patterns. Quantum science and technologies are at the forefront of next great leap in human understanding and technological capability. From quantum computing and cryptography to quantum materials and communication, the potential applications of quantum science are boundless. As we stand on the brink of this new era, we must ensure the broadest possible participation in these advancements. This conference, dedicated to the role of women in quantum science, is a testament to that commitment. Throughout history, women have made significant contributions to science and technology, often overcoming substantial barriers to do so. From the pioneering work of Marie Curie in radioactivity to Ada Lovelace's foundational contributions to computing, women's achievements have been both profound and transformative. Yet, despite these successes, women remain underrepresented in many scientific fields, including quantum science. This underrepresentation is not due to a lack of talent, drive, or potential, but rather the result of systemic barriers and biases that have historically limited women's access to education, resources, and opportunities. Today, we are here to acknowledge these challenges and, more importantly, to take collective action to overcome them. This conference provides a unique platform to celebrate the accomplishments of women in quantum science and technologies, highlight their contributions, and discuss strategies for fostering greater inclusion and diversity in the field. By bringing together researchers, educators, policymakers, and industry leaders, we can share insights, forge collaborations, and inspire the next generation of women scientists. I am confident that the discussions over the coming days will cover a wide array of topics, from the latest advancements in quantum research to the practical steps we can take to support women in this field. We will hear from the trailblazing women leading groundbreaking research, as well as those working to create more inclusive and supportive environments for all scientists. As we embark on this conference, I encourage each of you to engage deeply with the discussions, share your experiences and insights, and consider how we can collectively drive change. Let us use this opportunity not only to advance our scientific understanding, but also to build a community that values and supports diversity, equity, and inclusion. In closing, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this conference, whose hard work and dedication have made this event possible. I also want to thank all the participants for your commitment to advancing quantum science and for your efforts to ensure that this field is open to all who have the passion and talent to contribute. Together, we can create a future where the wonders of quantum science and technologies are driven by the diverse perspectives and talents of all scientists, regardless of gender. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm confident that inspiring conversations and discoveries will take place at this international conference. I wish the conference great success. Thank you, Professor Mani Dixit, for this speech. I would now like to request Professor Indranil Manna to kindly give her inaugural address. To kindly give his inaugural address.
I'm not sure whether Mr. Karandikar is still around, but Mr. Karandikar, Secretary DST, Mrs. Dhanlakshmi, Joint Secretary DST, Mr. Umesh Wagmare, Mr. Dhanashree Sahadas Gupta, Mr. Godbole, Dr. Chandrima Saha sitting here, and I found on the screen Mr. Datta Gupta also. There are quite a few very eminent scientists sitting here, and ones who are going to be very eminent in the future. So very good morning to all of you. I'm indeed honored. Dhanashree invited me and I had my own confusion. I kept on asking her that, do you really need me here? And she insisted, and I realized at least today that what's the connection? I'm being referred as the Vice President of INSA, but not the President of INA. So what I wish to say here is that I'm not really competent enough to comment on quantum science and technology. I'll leave it to the likes of Umesh and Dhanashree to take care of that. But it's absolutely amazing, and I must compliment SN Bose Center for taking it upon themselves to celebrate, first of all, the centenary of the seminal scientific contribution of Satyen Bose. And at the same time, bringing to the fore the fact that he was not only respectful to the woman, but also practiced gender sensitivity in profession. I had no idea until now about the fact that Dr. Purnima Sinha was the first PhD, and I was talking to Dr. Chandrima Saha at the beginning. Possibly she was the first PhD woman scientist who obtained PhD from Calcutta University in physics. Because Ashima Chatterjee obtained her PhD in 1944 in chemistry, was the first PhD awarded to a woman in Calcutta University, pre-independence era. I wonder as to, someone who is devoted and is considered to be a global figure in quantum physics, I'm referring to SN Bose, what made him interested in clay, one of the most rudimentary material available all over. I was all the time contemplating that possibly there could be a relation because, clay is so simple and one of the most complex inorganic substances naturally occurring. It's because it's not pure, unlike silica. It always is found in mixture. And in order to characterize whether it's monoorganite or any other variants, you actually need to go into the crystallography. And we are talking about 1940s and 50s. X-ray came into being just around that time. And to be able to utilize the X-ray machine and X-ray crystallography with no standards available, no references available, to be able to characterize a mixture having complex combination of various crystallites, and that too not 100% crystallite. Those of you who are familiar with crystallography would recall that you're talking about essentially the plate structures where at least in between the plates you may have and you most possibly have amorphous solid. So to characterize such a material at that point of 1940s and 50s, I salute to the scientific ingenuity of both the guide and the student. What is also important is for us to recollect that that was a time when the Dr. Bhatnagar started thinking about creating the precursor of CSIR or DSIR. And none other than Meghnad Saha thought it was prudent to establish a glass and ceramics laboratory in Calcutta, the fourth in the series of CSR laboratories. Because of my brief association with CGCRI, I am inclined to believe that these two giants of that particular time, Bose and Saha, there are many anecdotes about the relationships between them, but that apart, possibly they would have felt that Meghnad Saha was very passionate to create a laboratory and a production unit for quality glass, specialty glass. He realized after the Second World War that India must have good quality optical glasses, and that's why the CGCRA was founded. And when you go into such silicate-based structures, you cannot altogether ignore the importance of various clay materials. Maybe that was the reason why SN Bose thought it was necessary to understand the chemical characteristics and most importantly, the crystal structure, variations of crystal structure in the clay materials. But an important point that I wish to make here is that every time we talk about science and technology, I mean, that's very common. And no wonder that because we all need money for research and we always look forward to PhD, the likes of Professor Karandikar and Ms. Dhanlakshmi, always we wish they help us. But there is a bridge, a link between science and technology, and that is engineering. In many fora, I often argue that you cannot leapfrog from science directly into engineering. There has to be a bridge. And in the same way, the same argument applies that when you have an idea and you wish to translate it to a product and commercialize and take it to the market, so translation of science into technology, unless you actually have demonstrated and taken to a certain level of TRL, you are likely to fall in the trap of valley of death. So engineering is actually the translation of fundamentals of know why to know how. So when you determine the crystal structure of clay and you understand that it could be used for reflection, for reinforcements, for even lubrication, in order to take it to an actual application, you actually have to develop certain prototypes. You have to go through a certain pilots. And that's what engineering is all about. And why it is so important, it's also relevant to Bose. We are celebrating his seminal contribution in quantum physics. And we all know that this is the work which eventually got recognized and even extended by none other than Einstein. Similarly, Einstein spoke about gravitational wave in 1916. And it took humanity to prove that experimentally exactly 100 years. Until the time LIGO came into being in 2016. So this is an important point to note that it is not always true that science drives technology. At times you need technology or engineering to prove that science was correct. So this is also all the more important because in India, we often are reminded by our Honorable Prime Minister that by 2047, 100 years from our independence, India should emerge as a developed nation. So we have very many aspects to be very proud of. I mean, we are the 5th largest economy in India. We have done enormously well in very many things, even in social and public life. But there's always a flip side. For example, if you take the example of energy, we consume 1/5 of the world average of energy. I just wanted to share one thing. Similarly, in terms of various healthcare indices or enrollment issues, educational issues, there's a lot to be covered. Now, when 1/2 of the society is not given the right importance, and even if we are the largest population and the youngest population in the world, if we cannot harness the potential of 1/2, then how do we expect that we should be able to reach our target of Viksit Bharat by 2047? So it's absolutely essential that we pay attention with the right approach and with the right importance. And I'll just end with a very enjoyable anecdote. And when you're in Calcutta, actually, there's no escape from referring to Tagore. So Tagore was once asked by one of his ardent follower, disciple, and also a friend philosopher. The cryptic question in Bengali, much of the crowd here is audience is Bengali, so I'm going to translate, was Gurudev ke boro, nari na purush. So when you translate, it's difficult to translate. So the idea was, Gurudev, who do you think is greater or bigger or more important in life, men or women? And the answer was something only which could come from none other than Tagore. His answer was, they're neither equal nor equal. They are complementary to each other. So this is a message which needs not to be understood alone, but has to be completely owned, that one half of the society of no matter what billion we are talking about, unless we actually make them equally competent and equal partner in the growth story, this country always will dream of reaching the Viksit Bharat target, but will find it very difficult. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Professor Indranil Manna, for your inaugural address. And finally, I would like to request Professor Rohini Godbole to kindly give her inaugural address. Professor Rohini.
Thank you very much. And Professor Tanushi Dasgupta, Professor Karandikar, Ms. Dhanalakshmi, all the honored guests on the dais, online, but even more importantly, all my friends, the participants at this international conference on women in quantum science and technologies. I know it is kind of routine to say that it's an absolute pleasure to give this talk, but let me tell you that this is absolutely one of the times when I mean it absolutely most seriously. As a matter of fact, I would have really liked to be present in person, and I'm really sorry that circumstances do not allow me to do that. As I wrote to Professor Dasgupta when she invited me to talk about this, I actually told her that at the conference, centenary conference for Dr. Satyendranath Bose, I had talked about my first love as a young scientist. I talked about structure of light, and which, as a matter of fact, is completely based on quantum effects. In fact, the subject I work in of atoms and elementary particles began its journey with the ideas of quantum, or rather the ideas of quantum also began their journey in these ideas. So as a physicist, I am absolutely delighted now, today, at a somewhat senior age, to talk about my second love, which is women in STEM. I was very glad because various dignitaries on the dais have made very important comments, which I would base my comments on. I like the way Professor Umesh Agmare pointed out explicitly that mainstreaming gender in all walks of life, including the development of a society, and Dr. Manna also emphasized on that this mainstreaming gender is important, not, in everywhere. In fact, Amartya Sen had pointed out long back that, I think 2005, that long gone are the days when we looked upon women as passive recipients of fruits of development to improve their lot. But now they are to be seen as agents which contribute to the development. This was very clearly brought out by Professor Manna. Now, we know that gender equity today is even a sustainable development goal, one of the sustainable development goals. I think it's fourth or fifth. So one of the very logical question that anybody can ask is that why are you making then a big deal of women in STEM separately? Why can't this be part of a general dialogue how we mainstream gender in society? And I think I would like to sort of spend a few minutes on talking about that. And that is where actually I want to say that the challenges faced by women in general in participating in various activities are, there are some usual challenges and which are common to all women. So what are the additional challenges for women in science? Actually, I would like to say that before I talk about that, I would like to mention one fact which has so far not been said, is that, in India, India is one country, many countries in one country. So normally we talk about education and women's education and participation of women in education. And indeed, in some parts of India, even that becomes a big story. So I would actually restrict myself to women in science, as it were. And if I look at women in science, as it were, the fraction of women who do science, who study science, and at a competitive level do very well is actually not very small. You will be surprised that about 50% of women students in higher education is now, are women. And this has been the case for a long time. But then, as was mentioned already, the number of practicing women scientists and number of women who lead science is still very small. As I like to say, in fact, that number of women in science in India is not small, but number of women doing science in India is rather small. We are actually below the world average, which was given by UNESCO, which is about 30%. So in India, at least in this elite women in STEM area, of course, development of human resources, which are in science, is always a problem of all the countries. But in India, it is the human resource deployment for women that's an issue. So let's try to understand, what are the reasons. And there are some obvious reasons, there are what I call ticking clocks. I call ticking body clocks and ticking science clocks. Because science is very specific. You really develop as a scientist in your postdoctoral period, which is where you say, this is me. In this area, if you want to ask a question, you should ask me. This is precisely the time when the body clock is also ticking away. And that is something none of us can do anything about. So the simultaneously ticking clocks of science and body are actually one of the obvious challenge. And I am, general feeling has been that if you take care of these challenges, then life should be okay, because obviously there is no genetic difference between men and women in doing science. While that may be true, there is a whole lot of different dimension and of challenges that women see. And this have been already alluded to, but I want to mention a bit about this. So the general feeling, and those problems are in fact about biases, what women can do and cannot do. Biases about what women should do and should not do. And more importantly, this is something that we as scientists have to realize, that the kind of mentoring we give to our younger people actually gets affected by these biases. Actually get affected, that they actually affect the way we treat young women scientists. And indeed, in the world of science, the period when you are finished your PhD and setting up in a science career is the most crucial one. And I feel that the way even we scientists treat our young women scientists get affected by these biases. And this is what we call, I would like to call, and it's now word over accepted, invisible biases. So actually, I think, how have we done? In India, we have done pretty well when it comes to try to help women to, how should I say this, to tackle the obvious challenges of family, obvious challenges of taking care of different responsibilities, no matter what various cultural beliefs and practices end up giving women more share of their caring responsibilities and what have you. But I think India, we have been fortunate that things like Department of Science and Technology and many other departments, Department of Biotechnology, have actually implemented a lot of processes which in fact do try to handle this. And I'm very glad that that has happening. But we think that this is enough. If we think this is enough, that's not at all the case. And to me, now the time has come where we have to actively look at what roles institutions, what can play. It's one thing to increase funding. It's one thing to introduce special schemes, but it's another thing to try and make everybody realize, make people, internalize the fact that these invisible biases is something that we must need to fight. And so in my case, my feeling is that in India, it's been a case of, there used to be a very old advertisement in 1974 of Virginia Slims. And it used to say, "You have come a long way, baby." And I think because women were at that time not considered to be, they're not considered very nice to be seen smoking. So therefore there used to be this ad, "You have come a long way, baby. You can now smoke in public. We have special cigarettes for you." And I think, it's a case of you have come a long way, baby. But it's also a case that we have miles to go before we can rest. And I am very, very glad that the kind of efforts that Tanushri Dasgupta has done in organizing this conference, and as Umesh also pointed out about the conference that is being organized by Priya Mahadevan, and these are all, important steps, and this is becoming a norm is really very nice. And I personally look forward to a day when women are not, we don't talk of women scientists and women engineers, but we just talk of scientists and engineers who happen to be women. And again, as Dr. Manna said, in Kolkata, it's difficult not to quote Tagore. Unfortunately, I may not be able to quote it correctly, certainly not in Bengali, but I would like to say, paraphrasing, "In that heaven, the dear Lord, let my country arise." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Godbole, for your address. This brings us to the end of this inaugural session. And on behalf of all members of SNBOS National Center for Basic Sciences, I would like to thank all the esteemed guests, speakers, and participants for joining us. Thank you, everyone.